change for today, as you can see, is I washed it and took off all the crappy aftermarket stickers that were on it. Looks a lot better. I used Goo Gone on some of the sticker residue, and that worked out so well. I just put Goo Gone all over the whole ATV, which made this nose piece look a little better. It helped a little bit on the rear fenders, but obviously Goo Gone's not really intended for beautification, but it seemed to help a little bit. And I still have some Krylon that's arriving via mail to try to repaint some of these scratches and stuff. Hopefully it'll make it look a little better. But once I put the Krylon paint, the LED taillight, and the Nerf bar, I think it'll look a lot better, at least satisfactory enough to me. The wheels came out pretty nice looking, or at least nicer than they were, and I'm pretty happy with that as well. So, good to go there. So as I'm prepping to wash this and get the stickers off, I've just been going around the vehicle and scraping where I can. Some stickers are easier than others. The number stickers came off really easy. This one is an old Michigan DNR ORV sticker, and it's left a residue, so I just use some Goo Gone, spray that on the sticker, and try to scrape it off piece by piece. Maybe I'll even be brave enough to switch to metal blades and scrape it off that way, or I'll just sand it down, and when the time comes to paint it, I'll just sand it down and paint right over it to get rid of these scratches anyway, and include this residue as part of what's underneath the paint after I paint it. We'll see how it turns out. Besides destickering and washing the ATV, I revisited the airbox, vacuumed all that out, got the squirrel's nuts and all that stuff out of there, and took off the air filter so I could replace that. But one thing that's disappointing is the wrong one came. So this is what's on the end of the engine, a metal mesh kind of quasi filter, and I ordered what's supposed to be a 400EX filter. This is the part number, but it's too short. It's not the right one. So I'll either have to make one or reorder it or something. It's kind of annoying because even air filter, it's a relatively cheap part, but it's not as cheap as an aftermarket, non-Honda air filter, so I'll have to return it or something. But anyway, that's next on the list for today. Also on my to-do list, as you know, is the oil change. So I ordered all the Honda parts for that. I got a new spark plug, and the spark plug change thing, I'm guessing it's not the same as my XR250R, so I got one just for the 400EX. Nice to have a spare even if it is the same, and I'll do that in the next couple of days as well. Also, I was trying to think of a place to keep some of my tools, just really a small amount of essential tools for when I go on trips with the ATV, and I thought maybe I could keep it in the airbox. That way it's not going to get lost, and there's a bit of space in here. I'm sure Honda engineers somewhere figured out that this is the optimal size for the airbox and I shouldn't mess with that, but maybe if I put the spark plug tool in there and a spare spark plug and a couple of wrenches or something, that'd be a good place to store it. I don't know. Motocross guys, ATV guys, let me know if that's a terrible idea. Next project. Of course, when I bought the ATV, I noticed that these were all ripped up and both sides were damaged. And then after the test ride, I noticed that this was broken. You can see that there, the bracket snapped. Easily welded. If I had a welder, I don't have one, but my friends could probably weld it for me. Still, with the nets ripped and that bracket broken anyway, I thought I'd order a set of new foot nets, the Nerf bars. And so I did. Alba Racing Team off of eBay, I think it was, for $91 had a pair of these with nets for sale. Says all the bracketry and mounting equipment is included. We'll see. So I'm going to take it apart and take a look at it and see what I have first and start there. Well, a slight change of plan. The new brackets don't quite line up with where I thought they would. The front can move anywhere, so that's not a big deal. I think it's somewhat flexible. The back existing bracket that I have would be here, but that rubs against the tire, so that's not going to work. So it's supposed to be right around here or something, which would clear the back tire. But I don't have that type of componentry anymore. I guess these are aftermarket Nerf bars, and those are probably long gone years ago. So rather than source different brackets, I've decided to just use the existing Nerf bars, which are fine, and put in the nets from the new one into the old Nerf bars. You can see I'm almost done getting this one off. All I do is I just stick the screwdriver in here and wiggle it around, and eventually it comes loose and comes out. Actually, this is one of the easiest ones I've done so far. However, the other side's already done. You can kind of see it's close. It's a close match. It's good enough. I think that'll do just fine. These nets seem a little wimpier and weaker than the last ones, but they're also not 10 years old, which is a big plus for them. Another reason I kept these silver ones as opposed to the new black ones, I'm worried that black is going to chip and fade and maybe rust, who knows, I don't know. I just don't trust that paint staying on too long. I like that these ones are already silver and polished, even if they're older looking. I like that they're polished aluminum and not painted. So happy to put these new ones on, and we're almost done. As you can see by the other side, we're nearing the end of this little mini project, and we'll be able to take it for a test ride soon. So strapping these new nets into the Nerf bars is pretty easy. You just slide it over the top like the instructions say, through the bottom hoop. I didn't leave myself quite enough, but then you go in through the bottom slot here, and then you route them through this slot right here. I use a tiny little screwdriver to fish them through and just pull them out and make them taut. So I've only got 2.5 left now, and then I'll be done. Got the new net on both sides. This side looks a little different than the other side. I mean, I know they're not intended exactly for this Nerf bar, but still, they're not symmetrical. So I'll probably flip this one around and spin it around and upside down so that it matches the other side. Meanwhile, I'm taking this part off to replace the bracket, which is split here and here. Everything's kind of stuck together. These parts aren't too bad to remove. This kind of press fit type thing here, it's really wedged on there tight. So it's going to be hard to get it separated from the rest of the ATV. Kind of wondering what I want to do about that. It's going to be a little tricky. If I have to, I guess I can take off this bracket. Maybe I can even use this cross bracket from the new setup to replace it. But anyway, making progress. It's always a little more difficult than you think. Actually making progress. The bolt hole is all but gone, and I can see the end of the pipe right here. And you can see this cleanish area means it's coming out. So I've been hammering it on both sides like this. Although I've been holding the Nerf bar so it doesn't bounce around as much. But we're gonna get there soon. Got it. Got the piece out. As you can see, it failed right where that eccentric oval would have been, right where it would have started its straight part. Don't know if that's why or not, but of course it traveled down all the way down there. So my buddy nearby says he can weld it up for me. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll try to take it to him tomorrow and see how that goes. Clean it up a little bit. Even if it's a bad looking weld, I don't care, as long as it's not going to break. Now it's time for tie rods. The tie rod in here was like super loose. You can even see it wiggle around like I made it. The tie rod, as you could see in the earlier video, is bad. Super loose. It moves, you know, a quarter or eighth of an inch at least by itself before the tie rod starts moving. So super loose. I managed to get the nut out of there by putting vice grips, you know, right on the bottom threads, right at the bottom here, and then have the wrench above that already on there before I vice grip it. So I was able to get that nut off, not too bad, with some PB Blaster. And now I'm doing the same type of setup here. You can see vice grips on the top of the threads and nut with the wrench on it below that, and it's coming off already pretty easy. You can see there's a bit of a bend to this one, so not only is the bushing bad, but there's a bend, which I knew before I bought it, and I pointed that out, so maybe that worked in my favor for negotiation. And then for the second part of this project, once there's no more threads up top for the vice grips to grip, I just move the vice grips down here to the bushing part, and just hopefully there's enough of something to grab onto there by ramming it between the hub and the tie rod bushing, and there is, so it's holding tight as I undo the wrench up top. Thankfully, it's not too bad. All right, last one's out. See if it'll come off here. Got it. At least one side. This side might need a little more prying. I've got a pickle. Oh, there it goes. Get that washer. And now I can show you the replacements. Now that we've got the old one out, you can see the bend even more now. So it's definitely ripe for replacement between the bushing and the bend. On eBay, I got some generic assemble your own tie rods. They come in a bag like this, and with all the components to the right length for your particular application, and you just put them together like I've done with this one. So we'll just match these up, make sure they're approximately right, and then we'll do a real alignment later. Actually, it's pretty close already, so time to put this one in once I get the length pretty perfect on. In case you've never done this before, there's one thing I wanted to point out. One of these ends is reverse threaded, so it's not righty tighty lefty loosey, it's the opposite. That's so that you can adjust the length of the tie rod while it's on the ATV later by turning this and it becoming longer or shorter relative to each end. So just know that if you're trying to get it on and it won't go on, it's because one end's reverse threaded. I got the new tie rod just roughly on there. It's just held in by gravity on one end and a loose castle nut on the other. But it looks pretty slick. I like that it's gold for some reason. Just gonna do a simple alignment here. I'm gonna have this tape measure, and I'm gonna measure from this tread block here to the same tread block over here. And I'll notice that if this is a length longer, if there's any longer than this same equivalent measurement on the back, then if this is longer, then we've got too much toe out, and we'll have to lengthen the back here. This tie rod needs to get longer, or that one, and make it so that they're square, so that the distance on the back measures the distance on the front by adjusting this tie rod here. So that's the next step.